these products online so that the other people can be able to access them. Of course, that will apply things like drop shipping and all. But the skill that are required by young people to be able to prosper in this sphere are the things that we want to talk about even more today.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we should see pop up over the next, few years is we should see more incubator programs that actually are preparing young people to go out and take advantage of the free trade zone. For example, Shift, one of the main things we do is that we help prepare young people that want to start businesses. So one thing we want to be able to do with our learning management system is make sure that some of the enterprises in our cohorts, they literally are being educated on how to, from day one, take advantage of after. And I think we need more startup hubs that will be influencing that type of behavior, because that's how we're going to be able to dictate the market going forward, not just doing the same old, same old. This is a new policy, so let's take advantage of it.
Indeed, indeed. So when you speak of the learning management system, I'm already beginning to see things like information hubs where young people can actually access information on how to, where to, and this should be really simply written guides for them to be able to keep track of what it is that they're doing, but also learn and figure out some of these things that may seem complicated and yet they're as easy as ABC. So for example, if I spoke of how to do trade in Uganda, what are the first things that you may want to learn? So information like this will be available on the Shift Learning Management Information System, right?
Absolutely. And I think one of the main things that it's gonna do, like I said, just again, think about, not only can you now, we're using the trading at school as the example, not only can you now trade with everybody in your grade level, but there's also fewer rules to allowing you to be able to trade. So you may even have a layman that normally wouldn't be able, obviously there's still paperwork and things involved, but it's far less complex in the age of after. And so I really can appreciate that even the bit of education people will need, they can get it. Think about the girl that goes to the vocational school and learns tailoring, and how easy it can be for her now to be finding market outside of her regular area. Think about the guy, the girl, the young man that wants to trade coffee. Yes. Right? These people have, now the issue could be internal. Yeah. It's hard to get that stamp from your local government.
From the UNBS, for example, you need to get certified. That's important, and that's actually takes us to things like paperwork. These are some of the things that are really stemming up as barriers for very many businesses. Why? Because they remain informal, and that is a total huge hiccup. So how do we enter this market of over 1.3 billion if we cannot?
How many?
Over 1.3 billion.
1.3 billion.
I mean, there is a mention of over 54 nations in Africa. So you can imagine not being able to tap into that market only because I do not have paperwork.
Think about that, D. Why was it even like that? And by the way, we want to welcome our YouTube audience. Our YouTube audience chimed in little few minutes after normal, but it's same crew this evening. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Delilah.
Absolutely.
Right from Africa.
Absolutely. And tonight's topic is related to import export in the age of the free trade area. Indeed. Which is a groundbreaking law. I mean, I guess policy that was recently put in place to help infuse entrepreneurship, economic mobility, and movement, things that are right up our alley here at Shift. So we just wanted to make sure we properly brought in our YouTube audience.
Yes, yes, yes. So you're almost welcome. Remember, we're always live on YouTube from 7 p.m. to 7:30 East African time and 11 a.m. CST.
You know what? We have to, this is a funny thing, and we'll get back to the topic, but we actually now have to change that time because it's now 10 a.m. CST, because in the United States, time went back 1 hour.
Holla, holla, holla.
And I know people here get a kick out of that.
I'm telling you this for sure. From the first time I've heard this, I'm never gonna understand it. I guess it's not something. It's not something you just easily grasp. I mean, in Uganda here, we've never had time go back and forth. We're just moving forward always. That's a topic for another day. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
listen, but and Ethiopia is 2016.
That's even more just.
It's 2016. So listen, I don't know.
We need to sync our calendars in some kind of way.
Nah, it's fine. Everybody gets to live how they choose. But you know, we do want to sync our calendars to make sure people can trade
Yes.
properly. If I say it's gonna be there on the 3rd at 2 p.m., let it be there on the 3rd at 2 p.m. And I think as we alluded to earlier with what we do at Shift is we have to be able to create, you know, tailored training programs to
Yes.
prepare entrepreneurs, not just the big boys. We don't want the same old thing to happen where the big boys are still running the show and having all the fun. This is a situation where the little guys can win too.
Listen, what really happens when the old boys get phased out? I mean, the young people left behind, then who's going to take over? Who is going to be the person who's going to lead the rest of the team?
That's really interesting. What do you think are some of the characteristics of enterprises that will lead and dominate in this free trade era that we're going into? What are some of the characteristics of businesses that will dominate going forward as they utilize this area?
I think when I look at the future for now, it's mostly things like EdTech because that's something super booming. If you're not doing anything education and you're thinking of brick and mortar classroom, you may not be able to tap into the future market because people are beginning to study on their phones, you know, and these skills should really be available 24 hours. And I believe Shift is already doing that, and we appreciate you, Shift, for making sure you're nurturing programs to make sure that young people are able to access learning systems for purposes of commerce in the future, right? And the other thing that I really think that people require now is the ability to adapt to new technology. You cannot brush that off. Why? Because the new age allows us to go digital. And most of these things that we're looking at today may just phase out and then we'll not be able to do so much. Look at registration, for example. When we think of registration, people have to visit particular websites to be able to input their information, and then they'll have an e-certificate. That wasn't so possible a long time ago. So if you do not have these soft skills at this time, it may not really be so easy for you to journey on and even tap into this widely appreciating market.
No, I certainly agree. And what I'm hearing and seeing is, like you mentioned, ed tech. That's the first part because people have to be trained on how to do this stuff. How does it work, right? Because if you wake up tomorrow and say, hey, you're in Uganda and you trade textiles or you trade potatoes or pineapples or you trade, you know, copper, whatever it is you might trade.
Wait, how about gold?
Hey, I'm not in that, but you know, the gold guys probably play by a whole nother set of rules. But so, you know, it's all good. I would love to get my hand on that. But the thing is, people have to learn, well, how does it work? And I think that's going to be one of the biggest rollouts. And like the question was about who might be leading the charge. Absolutely. The people, first of all, that are able to help folks learn how to play. Because that's what's been the age-old thing. People don't know how to play. And when you don't know how to play, there's no way you could win.
Think about kid kicking a ball and they don't really know how to bend it like Beckham.
Bend it like Beckham. Okay.
Tell me how many scores a particular kid could possibly have if they're playing with pro styles. I bet that would be minimal. It could be by chance that it happens, but listen, you need to skill up right now so that you prepare for the future. Otherwise, it's not going to be as simple a journey for you in the future because you need these skills.
So if you're an entrepreneur, some practical things you can do, you know, right now to sort of align yourself. I think it's very important not just to wait for someone or people to give you the tools you need. Even many of us are in WhatsApp groups that have people from different countries all over the continent of Africa. So I think it would be, and sure, people are doing their best to try to trade, but I think it would be really good to start the process of building those relationships because no matter what the policy is, people are going to always do business with people that they know, people that they like, and people that they trust. So I think it's very important to build relationships now as a business owner. And they don't have, it doesn't mean that you need to make a deal tomorrow. So often I've seen in business, people want to make a deal right then and there. If it
Like,
don't happen right now,
now.
and that's like so like listen, and that's not to say that never happens, but typically in business, you're gonna need time to build relationships. And so that's a practical approach that I think a business owner can take right now.
Mhm.
Make sure that you're putting yourself in spaces where you're getting to know people that may potentially become your suppliers, people that may become your customers on the other side of the transaction where they're buying what you're selling. So just to give some practical meat that people can literally start looking at, you know. And then another thing, D, I want to add this and you jump back in there, is if you're someone that knows you want to export, you need to know the rule, the internal rules and in your country, because it does no good for the external policy to say we can trade freely.
Yes.
If your internal government is saying, no, you're not ready to trade because you don't have your paperwork together. So let's get ready, let's get aligned with the rules that govern trading.
The UNBS official in this podcast today, but not to worry, we should invite someone personally in the next discussion so that we can get highlights of these things. And again, we would want to encourage young people to keep in the loop of this conversation. Why? Because your voices matter, and the more you speak about the things that you require to propel in business, that's when we're able to realize advantage. Even when government decides to make decisions, it should be coming from you. Nothing for you without you. Remember that.
Yeah, because this thing is all about how do we, you mentioned earlier the number of people, it was in the billions.
Yes.
I think you were reading a article this week that said something about increased trade. It was something along the lines of 52%. It was some large number that just almost to double the trade volume. So the money is there.
I'll just bring you to those numbers in particular. So it's clear that there is a single market of over 1.3 billion people in Africa, in only 54 states, which are of course part of the Africa. And we have about trade, probably intra-African trade rising up to 52.3% by 2035. And that's a huge number. We're looking at $450 billion in GDP. And that's not something you can just let go in passing. I think these are very critical numbers, and we need to take the opportunity to take action now.
So let's take the last few minutes we're here together. And by the way, again, this is the Shift Podcast. We're here each and every Wednesday live. For those of you that are watching the replay, we certainly appreciate you tuning in for the replay. We're seeing the replay numbers continue to stay pretty steady each week. And I'm sure one week we'll shoot through the roof with that thing. But for now, we really just love being able to come and share a space with people that we know folks can come back throughout the week with some sound advice. I want to maybe offer some basic insights for business owners out there, something that they can jot down and say, okay, here's how I align myself. But I know you also had some other things you may have wanted to add to, and I'll jump in with that advice before we get out of here.
Okay. Go on, Nathan.
Jump in there. Sure. No. So the main thing I want to talk about is the fact that you mentioned that the money numbers are there.
Yes.
But it's just like any other business you're doing. Even if you were only gonna do business in Bucadia, there's a very simple, the basics of business are still the same if you want to do business from Bucadia, but in South Africa. Know your market.
You did.
You need to know who your customers are in South Africa. Sure, you can trade with all 54 countries, but is it likely you will have a trade partner in every single country? I don't think so. I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade, but let's be realistic. You need to know who your customer is, understand the expenses that go along with exporting, because DHL and these people that do the movement of goods, they're not saying, look, we're giving you discounts because you're taking advantage of this app. They're saying bring it on. They probably don't amp their prices up because the demand will be increasing. Right. So financial management is going to be very important, because again, it does no good for these rules to be available if you're not financially able, or your business isn't even, you're not able to actually be a player in the game.
And
So
beyond that, of course, there's a relevant bit of networking. Allow yourself to go to some of these expos, go to investment summits. These are opportunities for you to actually have a platform to speak about your business, have engagements where you can actually trade in other countries, and even build your own clientele.
Yeah, I think that's very, very important. Just putting your face in a place, no matter what, anything that we ever talk about is always going to go back to some of the basics, just being intentional.
Yes.
If you're out there and you're somebody that says, and again, being intentional might not look like trading even in 2024, but maybe by 25, 26, you ramp it up and you can do that. So that means you need to have a what?
A plan.
A plan, exactly.
Also, very strategic plan, and that should definitely have those SMART goals.
These things are very, 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 very on par with what needs to happen. So again, the last thing I would say, Delilah, as it relates to just practical insights, is the legalities.
Yes.
Because again, we've probably mentioned this 3 or 4 times now as we talk about internal laws and rules. But what are the legalities? So I think there's quite a few areas that Shift will be able to infuse some value into some companies that we can work with to help people, as we even internally, look to bring people on board that are in the know of ACTA and can help and educate our businesses that come through our programs. And then as I personally, as a founder and someone that's out there at the forefront of Shift, learns it more and more, I think we'll be able to help train a lot of people, because you said it earlier, these ed techs and these start hubs and these venture studios, it's going to be very important that we are poignant. I think that's the word, poignant. Is that the word?
Yes.
Poignant about what we're teaching startup founders so that they can be ready to be leaders in these new markets that are being created. So,
but with all this, Ethan, you just have to be ready to learn. Bring your own energy, just be ready to learn, because these things don't just come out of the blue. If you set yourself to, even as a startup, to begin to figure out what a marketing strategy should actually look like, those are steps which are going to help you move forward, right? Petty things like bookkeeping can actually throw you off, Ethan. So if you're not able to do these things, it may actually become a huge, huge, huge challenge. So little things can be those things that are as simple as bookkeeping, making sure you're paying taxes, ensuring that you're renewing your registration, making sure that you're certified. These are things that may really seem simple, Ethan, but you have to reach out to the bodies that are very much working with these kinds of things. For example, UNBS, URA here in Uganda. I'm sure there are also other bodies in other countries that are similar to these, that you as a young person, or even an entrepreneur who has been in the game for a long time without registering, can approach. Yes, and these services are mostly free, but of course you may have to pay a small sum of money to be able to acquire these documentations.
So you just have to be ready. And so I think it's important. I think my main point on all of this would be something you said a moment ago, and it's about having a plan.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a big boy, and you got your legal team and you just call your attorney or your person that works with policies, they're going to just be able to point you in the right direction. But a lot of what we do and we talk about is for your smaller startups, people that are growing, seeking to be at the big table. And so for these people, you may have a smaller team and you may not some of us can't just pick the phone up and have our attorney on the other line. Of course, you need that, but you may have to do some of the legwork. to figure these things out. So you have to have a plan, and it needs to be long term. I'm gonna put it in a 5-year window, and for some people that's still short term. But for a lot of folks that we deal with, 5 years is a very long term outlook. So what will it take to be ready to be exporting within 2 to 3 years, and how far can you get within 5? And I think it all starts, like you said earlier, with being able to understand the rules of the game. So if you've never even picked up a document or read a newspaper article to talk to you about the free trade zone area here,
Yes.
you need to, I think that's very important.
Please.
You're already behind.
Already behind. And you may be wondering why we're focusing on the young people. Here in Africa, we have a volume of over 60% young people, and that's the future generation. So we're saying we need to prepare them now and not tomorrow, because it may be too late.
Delilah, you're a woman, and you're not in the kitchen. You're a woman that does business, and you're a leader in things that are in the business world. What what do you think we can do to ensure that women-led businesses can be in the room and in the know? The first thing that came to mind, even answering the question for almost 4 years, women networks. But what do we do to make sure women are able to utilize this policy to trade all over the continent?
I know for most reports, it's really reported that women are really underutilizing some of these resources, and sometimes they are missed out. Maybe possibly because of their gender, or because they're not extremely aggressive. It could be one or two things, or just a combination of them. But one key thing that will propel women, especially in business, is availing them the platforms to be able to trade. But beyond that, allowing them to access this information, because I know for sure that information is key. And these tools should be availed even locally, and not just to the elite woman who is at a desk and able to access internet. This information should be able to reach even the woman who is trading at grassroots level. And
how do you do that? How do you make that a reality?
This can actually be a reality through creating things like workshops, business workshops for these young women, and creating platforms even in schools, universities, to allow them to get incubated into these hubs and these opportunities, so that they're able to reach their fullest potential. I'll tell you this for sure, that this information is not widely accessible, and I think these are some of the top challenges. But beyond that, we already know the usual, which is funds. Women need to be availed access to funds so that they are able to grow their businesses. And this should come with a lot of training, because you cannot dump a gold just in front of a swine, because you cannot dump gold, or would you
don't throw your pearls before the swine.
Yes, you can dump diamond or gold in front of swine, because they may not understand the value. So educate them on the things that they require to do business and prosper, and then support them with these funds so that they can be able to even grow further. So these are the things that I really believe should be able to propel.
Somebody might say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So let's say, for example, somebody could go into, for example, Juan de Gea.
Yes.
People may have shops there. Somebody could go to several places where there are women-led businesses. And so take me through, just using your imagination, from a woman, for example, that does not know about the free trade area right now.
Yes.
Take me through a process by where she's made to know about it, and understand it, and then eventually utilize it by exporting. For example, we have WooSwift.
Yes.
How will we take Ghislaine from now potentially not knowing about this, to in X amount of time now exporting WooSwift's handmade bags all over the continent? What could that look like? Because I want to just in a real way.
Yes. Okay. For example, when you look at WooSwift, would look at things like engaging WooSwift in mini workshops in her own community, and allowing her to access e-learning platforms which give us knowledge on how after works, and after that will allow her to analyze the things that she already has and figure out a plan on how to, first of all, register, and then figure out the next steps. For example, what kind of funding does she require, and who are the people who are availing these funds? Because I'm sure there are very many platforms that are open to the world and saying, here are funds for you to be able to do business. But what kicks most young people out is they do not have the registrations, they do not have the credentials to be able to actually get into these platforms. So we'll allow WooSwift to understand what they require first as a business person. Right? And then also help them to understand what they're selling, because it's one thing to have a product, but it's another thing to understand what you're selling and who your clients are. You have to know who you're selling to. Is it women? Is it men? What age are they and where are they? Okay. And we should all understand that not all products are consumed by everyone. For example, I cannot be looking out for a toy unless I have a baby. Okay. And these are the things, as basic as they are, that young people, especially women, need to understand. So we need to bring this knowledge into them and then guide them through the process of course, registration, because that's a very important step in business, especially if you want to trade across 54 countries and reach these 1.3 billion people in terms of market. So also we need to educate them on how to present their brand, because the competition is stiff and you cannot just come out of the market and stretch. No, you have to prepare. So you have to look at things like branding, packaging. What tools are you using, for example, to ship your products? Are you using experts, or are you thinking of another train that may live after a billion years? So this is all the information that should be pulled in small bits and shared with these enterprises, so that they're able to understand the key steps that they need to take in order to be able to clearly, smartly, broadly, and successfully yield fruit in their business.
I get that. And so as we close out, it sounds like it takes quite a bit of hand holding.
Yes.
And it also takes the buy-in of these founders and their executive teams to be able to go through the process, because you don't just start exporting tomorrow. And so we have our work cut out for us, but this is also an incredible opportunity. So if you all are not in the know of the Africa free trade area, it's something that the free trade agreement, I think it's something that we should all engage with, learn about, and see how to put it into action, because it's a policy that can impact all of our lives, especially people wanting to trade on the continent. So we went a little bit over to make sure we gave our YouTube audience their good 30-minute chunk that I know people like to get each week. So we appreciate you on Twitter and X for being here with us a little bit over time. Enjoy the review. We'll be back next week. We have a big weekend coming up. We'll be presenting at the Trans Africa Investment Summit that's out in Entebbe.
Yes,
and starting tomorrow. So looking forward to being there, making some good contacts, and of course seeing how we can get involved with the free trade area, right? So if you're going to talk about it, be about it. So thank you guys both on YouTube and on X, Twitter, for joining us. This has been our Shift Podcast. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Delilah. And do not forget to visit our website on www.shiftenterpriseacademy.com. Also visit our Legacy for Tomorrow campaign page, and you'll be able to learn a lot about what we're doing here in East Africa.
Absolutely. Legacy for Tomorrow. Definitely take a look in that. And if you feel so froggy, definitely jump on the shift train. We got a lot of things going. We'll see you guys next week.
Let's ride.